Hi everyone, my name is Rudolf and I'm the founder of BCNL. BCNL is the community for blockchain, crypto and DLT startups and scale-ups in the Netherlands. And this event, webinar, is part of the BCNL Webinar series. And in this series, we provide you with relevant talks from blockchain experts and entrepreneurs in the scene. So make sure to sign up for those. They will be shared via our social media channels as well. Some important notes. The agenda for today is we'll start in a minute and then 30 minutes presentation, 30 minutes Q&A discussion, and we'll end around 7. Please mute your mic and video. Please ask questions in the chat area, and the webinar will be recorded and shared. So today, BCNL associate ReCheck will share their knowledge and insights with you. And the topic of the webinar is secure and private communication when working remotely. Emiliyan, Enev, CEO, and Emil, Stoyanov, CTO, will show you what solutions ReCheck has to offer. They will furthermore introduce themselves to you. So let's dive into it. Emiliyan and Emil, the stage is yours.
Hi, Rudolf, and thanks a lot for this invitation and for being our host. Really a pleasure to be part of this webinar and generally of this community of blockchain Netherlands. I'm Emiliyan Enev, and I'm the CEO of ReCheck. And for the last maybe 10 years, I can call myself a digital entrepreneur. We started ReCheck approximately 3 years ago, and it is a Dutch blockchain startup with 2 Bulgarian co-founders. Emil, please, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, yeah, I'm the technical guy in the team. I've been working on software development in like the last 15 years. But the last 4 years, blockchain has been a very exciting part of my research and also work. So ReCheck is doing mostly blockchain related work, software development components and consulting. I'm excited also to share what we have and what we learned the last several years, especially in this moment.
Okay, so let's get this started. Could you please go to the next slide?
Yeah.
So just a little context, really quick. We have all encountered these challenges working from home and changing our work environment and maybe with kids, maybe with family, and many things changed for a short period. And some of the challenges are related to the way we communicate, the way we exchange information with others, the way we verify certain documents, certain facts. And it was something that we thought we are prepared for, but actually in some use cases especially, it was not exactly the situation. So which are the biggest challenges now? Information security is one of it. It is related to this full digitalization of business processes. But on the other hand, it is the way we generally do business. Can you please go to the next slide? So things like how you protect data, how you ensure that certain information is not manipulated, how you limit certain risks related to fraud, related to data breaches are becoming more and more, let's say, clear and becoming a priority for a number of companies. And now when everything is in this online environment and people collaborate over the internet, the issue about how you access data, how you share data in secure environment, how you can verify that certain documents and data are correct or are not tampered with, becoming more important. And then the question is how you can automate this. Okay, please, next slide. With ReCheck, we have been developing blockchain solutions for the last 3 years or even more. And initially we started with this concept about creating these digital twins of physical products and making sure that you buy original stuff. But over the last 1.5 years, we are very much focused on information security, protecting data, and secure exchange of sensitive information. And the concept that we reached is something that we call person-to-person communication, or also person-to-person encryption. So it's always about exchanging data between some individuals, between companies, between persons, and usually digital documents are vulnerable, and they can be somehow compromised, especially if they're sent by email. And some of the issues related to this is that information can be tampered with, and you don't have visibility about the status of data and documents, and you need to ensure protection, especially when you have low level of trust with your counterparties, with the person you communicate with. So there are a number of challenges, and here I would like to let Emil explain what is our approach in addressing these challenges and what is the solution that we developed.
Yeah, thank you, Emiliyan, for the introduction. Indeed, even we as experienced software developers and people that work the whole day on the computer, sometimes from home, sometimes in the office, we do now experience some issues when staying longer time as a home office workers. So we do see some interesting issues, and as you know, every issue could become an opportunity. And I think here the blockchain is playing a very nice role as we see it in this case. As Emiliyan told, what we think is essential is business is done by people, and people are used to have this feeling of trust, which is mostly based on live communication. To at least from my experience, emails are not very good way of conducting, let's say, trust and emotions, while the live way is pretty much the only way that people are convinced in someone's quality as a person, or abilities, or professionalism. And that's how we build trust, basically, by communicating offline. Now, when we are put into the context of digital communication, there are numbers of issues that arise. One thing is that the digital data and documents in the case of a business are pretty vulnerable, because you don't have the paper to have, this there's a bit of complexity to forge or to counterfeit, while a digital document could be easily changed, could be easily manipulated. And when you transfer it via email, you always go through a middleman, so you have to be careful. Many businesses do not understand that as a problem, but I believe now with this crisis, and when everybody has to stay home, the feeling of need for security is much higher. Now, this person-to-person communication, person-to-person encryption, for us, what it means is really that in order to exchange data, this should be between two people. And although what we provide as solution is also capable of operating on IoT devices and between machines and so on, what the focus here is really the person. And in the last years, the mobile devices have become, the smartphones have become a part of our life. They're always with us. So what we believe is the mobile device is the wallet, and the let's say it contains the identity of every person. So when we communicate through the digital space, at ReCheck, we think that our keys should never leave our pockets. And that's what person-to-person encryption is about. This is more of a way to exchange data between two persons in a direct way without any middlemen or middleware services to be able to read the data. However, the internet is so constructed and architectured that you would essentially basically eventually need a facilitator for exchange of this data. You can see a facilitator as an email exchange server or FTP server, or I don't know, any service that would allow you to upload data and somebody else to download it. And we think that this model will not change. We think that peer-to-peer exchange is here to come, maybe somewhere in the future without any middlemen to transfer directly and so on. But for now, facilitating the data exchange is something that provides a lot of value, including protection on different levels. But when we speak about person-to-person communication and this facilitating this data exchange, we think that what is essentially needed is these facilitators to, first of all, not read your data. They should not be able to read your data. So this means that the encryption should be in such a way arranged that when I put something on somebody else's storage, this service should not read the data. And when I put it for this data to be read by someone, I want to make sure that only the person that this data is designed to be read for is reading that data, nobody else. And this is achieved. This is nothing new. It's been in the space the last 15 years, like asymmetric encryption out there. So we use this principle of public and secret key encryption as a basis for a protocol that allows a facilitator to exchange, to provide services for exchange of data. But this is again not enough, because every service in the middle is kind of requiring trust. You have to trust these guys. Will they really not read your data? Would they, I don't know, forge the data somehow, or how are they providing the services in a way that we're sure that our data is private, our data is not manipulated. And if it comes to things like traceability, and this is one of the requirements of current businesses, especially in aspects auditing and tracing of the data, and then value tracing and so on. How are we sure that whatever happened with our data is accessible at any time, not manipulated during the time, has the correct timestamp, and so on and so on. So a lot of questions fall into the this middlemen that serve and provide value in terms of communicating the data. And here we have put several points. Facilitating data exchange that should be providing such a service must be privacy oriented. First of all, the data should not be able to be read, and everything that happens with the data should be recorded in a way that is trustful. Things like who has access to data, who accessed the data, who is the owner of the data, and so on and so on. So here comes what we call the needed level of trust. There are many systems like this out there, the Dropbox, Google Drive, and so on. Everybody can can use them, although they're not with encryption in mind and privacy in mind, but still they're useful. But when it comes to the real question, who is the owner of data and what happens with my data, and this is not answered. And here what we offer is a way to ensure and create trust through using the blockchain. Basically on this image on the right, you see that the two communicating people have their private keys. They use the facilitator in the middle, and the facilitator is acting in several ways. First of all, it facilitates the communication through asymmetric encryption of data, exchanging the data, exchanging credentials, and then intercepting certain actions that get recorded on the blockchain. On the other side, the involved users are accessing this data, but also they have the opportunity to verify any of their actions or actions that happened with their data on the blockchain. So we see the blockchain here as basically notary, a digital notary. And this way, even if the facilitator gets out of business, or I don't know what happens to it, the users have the trail of actions that happen to their data, and they can verify at any point in time directly querying the blockchain. Of course, this brings some questions like privacy. What do we record on the blockchain? Is it possible to forge some data out of the records on the blockchain, especially if this is a public blockchain? Here on the image, you see the logo of Ethereum, but in practice, we do work with. It could work with private blockchain setups. Public blockchains is Ethereum or Eternity or EOS or others. We think that as more as possible, a blockchain should be able to be added to such a facilitator for communication in order to provide the choice, to support the choice of the users when it comes to what for them means trust. Because some people do trust EOS, others don't trust it. Some do trust Ethereum and Vitalik Buterin, others don't trust it. So this kind of a key element in the configuration of communication gives the opportunity for the users to rely on a different blockchain as a notary. And the blockchain is actually the last witness that remains in the trail of communication, because even if the first service falls down, you still have it. You can keep a node on your side. Even if the blockchain goes away, you still have your node on your side and the whole digital trail. So we think that the blockchain here, in this case, plays a very valuable role. So how would this work? What is the solution that makes this possible? It's a very, I would tell, as a software developer here, it's a sequence diagram. I hope most of you are familiar with how to read this. This is I would recommend using web sequence diagrams for whatever you think needs a description of a sequence of actions. And this is how I created this diagram. It's a very good freemium service. But basically, here this diagram shows that this is a simplified version image of a protocol that is involved in the communication that we implemented as a facilitator of data exchange. And you can see something very important: the encryption and decryption from the very start of the diagram on the top left to the very end of the diagram on the bottom right happens. The encryption and decryption happens on the client side. Okay, so the facilitator and the blockchain, they do not have let's say access to the raw data, to the plain text, or whatever is transmitted. And the protocol involves a series of so so first to start, in the heart of the facilitator, we have a protocol which is open. Everybody can implement it. It's available later in the slides. I will provide you with resources, but the protocol allows for the user to never move his private key from his mobile device in order to move large files from one browser to another browser, from one browser to another device. And this is in the heart of the person-to-person idea, where the mobile device contains the key. It only signs or encrypts intermediary credentials which are exchanged by the facilitator. And whenever the file, the facilitator is sure that the credentials are coming from the right person or from the right private key, it provides the data on the other side. And along this, it provides also something we call checkpoints. And the checkpoints are places of actions which have the ability to record data on the blockchain. In this case, after pushing the data, you can see the arrow goes to the blockchain. Then after sending credentials to the receiver, it goes again to the blockchain. And when the receiver is downloading the data, it also again goes to the blockchain. Each of the records of the blockchain contain specific information about who makes the action, what is the action, and who is involved, what type of data is involved. So this protocol gives us the ability to create a complete trail of the data access in terms of actions on it, like upload, sharing, access, validation, and so on. Now, when it comes to businesses trying to achieve remote work for their employees, there are a number of issues. First, the systems are not yet ready for that. Most of the systems, what we observe with when talking to organizations, is that organizations are very much securely think that their systems are secure. And they rightfully think so, but it is what they have as security in their own domain and their own systems. When the information leaves this their department and their security domain, this is where things get actually dangerous, because you have to transmit data from one organization to another organization. And this is where you need this common layer of trust and common layer of security, where you are sure that the data gets transmitted consistently, received by the concrete person or concrete entity, and so on and so on. So this data exchange facilitator that we are talking about is actually playing a role of communication hub between different secure systems of different organizations. And the challenges here, of course, related to how do you integrate this quickly? What is the identity of my users? How do you do this? And so on and so on. So the answer here is what we think is really providing, I will skip that, we're providing a so-called pluggable trust layer. And this is a set of tools and software development kits that allow a very quick integration of this exchange layer into the current systems. From our experience, it's really a matter of up to sometimes 20 lines of code in order to integrate a solution that would exchange files from one point to another point. We think that such a solution should provide as much as possible open source tools. We do have a GitHub repository where everybody can have a look at the protocol and the implementation. And we have also provided a testbed for actually trying how the developers can try to exchange data and see how it works. And here's the place where I think show actually a working test application that we have developed. And I will actually do it like this on the if you see the browser on the left is the place where you can log in, and you can log in actually using a mobile device. On the right side is the application that is a web-based application for mobile devices, and it provides a QR code on the left side. The application is scanning that QR code. Okay. Oh, the camera is now busy, so I will use my mobile device for that. 1 second. So I will log in now with my mobile device, since the camera is used by Zoom meeting. And actually, using my private key on my mobile phone, I should be able to join the web-based application, where I can put some files and exchange them in a way that we used to work with email. So, for example, here I have an email, a file which is already uploaded. I can upload a new file. I just click and I go to, basically, I will file this one. And now selecting this file and pushing it to the Exchange Hub, we do two things. One is we encrypted the file with the mobile on the browser. We pushed it to the service, and at some point we get a certificate that we can save. And this certificate provides the blockchain information needed to verify the entry. If you click here, you will go to the block explorer of the Eternity network. You can see the transaction details. And in case you want to share this with somebody, you really do only make share. You tell which who do you want to share it with. John Smith, maybe. Let's see if, yeah. And every time you do an action, actually you have to authorize this with your private key, because this is where security comes from. Basically, your private key is on the phone, you authorize the action of sharing, and it's done. Now this file has been sent to the other side, and if the user is logged in, unfortunately I cannot show this because it's the camera is busy and I cannot scan the thing, but you can actually see the file. If you want to open the file on the other side, you just click, and again you can select multiple files to download and scan at the same time. So the service is not knowing at all what is behind the file we're downloading. It's I'm now authorizing access to the browser, and it's done. Basically, we have decrypted the document. You can see it. You can also download the certificate and so on. So we made this application that you see is actually using the SDKs that we provide, and the SDK is available at GitHub. And I hope this could be a nice way for you to get introduced to the blockchain. Is really really easy to use. We provide a command line tool as well for quick tests. And yes, that's. I think the time is coming to an end. These are the emails that we can you can send us questions to. There are many technical details that if we had to share here, the time would not be enough. But we'll be happy to share more if you reach out to us, and we can give you opportunity to test stuff. And I hope this will be also interesting for you.
Thank you, Emil, for the insightful presentation. May I ask everyone to ask questions in the chat area? If you go down in the screen, you'll see chat, and you can ask questions there directly. Myself, I'm very curious about your main learnings in this entire process. Could you elaborate a bit more on that?
What do you mean learnings?
Like, what were your key takeaways? If you would have started again, would you have done something different, for example?
Actually, what we have reached as idea to this point has been a long journey, and we have talked to different customers and organizations that think to understand what they need. And when it comes to using an application that supports this communication, what I have shown is nice, but what the businesses really want, the takeaway from what we learned actually the whole process, is that integration is the most important thing. How an integration has several aspects. One is should be easy and quick, should not involve a lot of resources on the side of the organization, because this is I mean, costs money, risky, and so on. And the other thing is really because people and organizations are often not aware of what actually blockchain is. The quickest way to show them and to convince them is actually by showing them a working service. Until now, I can tell that the last 3 years, a lot of things we have read about blockchain, potential analysis and so on, but there are not a lot of really working applications out there that would demonstrate what the real value of the blockchain is. And the main effort that we made actually is to make the blockchain showable, right? And showable means to be able to click here, get the certificate, click on the link, see the transaction details, and so on and so on. So the main takeaways are really quick integration and show working thing. That's the two things I think that are most important when somebody's making a blockchain solution.
Thank you. Valio is wondering if you have provided the solution already to clients, and maybe you can even explain a bit more where.
Yes, we have several clients that are already using that, and most of it is, as you can imagine, are startups which are keen to have from the start a layer of trust through the blockchain. We have served a number of companies, and this APIs and the SDKs actually has evolved with the help of the companies. We do provide this as a hosted solution, and also companies can install it on their premises as well.
Okay. What kind of corporate companies would or should use your solution? Do you have like a specific kind of type of company or industry in mind where their traction could be highest?
Maybe Emiliyan can help you.
Yeah, I think the solution could be valuable for really wide range of companies. So it is also industry agnostic. We are not only blockchain agnostic and data agnostic, it is also industry agnostic. But generally speaking, such a service is really useful for companies that would like to ensure very high level of protection when they share sensitive information, when they share information regarding intellectual property or some other corporate secrets, or companies that would like to take advantage of such solutions for compliance as well. I can give an example about a German company in which we are co-founders called IP Ocean. And they are developing a platform for managing intellectual property in a collaborative environment as a collaborative effort or open innovation. And it's really important to make sure that users are in control of the data and they have evidence when data is being shared with the others. So I would say that such a solution is really valuable if you share something under NDA, for example, and you would like to make sure that the recipient of the data really accessed, really opened the file. Because if you send something by email, then it's hard to prove that this sensitive information was really accessed, opened by the other party. And with such service, you can prove that you really sent this piece of data and it was opened, it was accessed by the other party. And this is recorded on the blockchain as a transaction, and you can always prove it.
We have also a case where the platform is used for actually tracking on the level of supply chain. Basically, with the help of the system, it ensures less human error and traceability of the deliveries across different systems. Where, for example, a producer is shipping a container of food to I don't know, to stores. There, in between, there are several points in the supply chain, and at the end, you could actually see and verify who has received the food or the packages, where they went, and make sure that this data is not manipulatable in the time.
Maybe another example is digitalizing documents related to physical products, and making sure that you're accessing the right documents or protecting the data related to physical products when goods move across supply chain or value chains. So it is another quite popular use case, and currently we're exploring this together with some companies. It is exactly in the field of traceability, but currently there are so many paper documents regarding the origin, the quality of the goods, and so these documents are subject to human errors, or they could be forged, they could be manipulated. And imagine this, you just scan and identify, recognize a physical product, and you can see the related digital documents. And it's another use case currently quite interesting for us.
And what's your expectation on the adoption and adaptation of such technologies in the coming period?
Please go.
I believe, well, seeing how it evolves the last 3 years, I would tell that the last year the demand has been like tripled than what we see from the last year. And for me, this certainly means that companies and organizations are starting to think about efficient ways of actually providing more trust and more security, first of all, to their data, and then how they work with their partners. And of course, when we move to this digital way of making business, a lot of issues with fraud have occurred, and using such solutions also decreases the rate of these cases. So I'm pretty sure, seeing just how it went for the last 2 years, I believe the trend will be going upwards, and that's the way I think the blockchain is becoming actually usable as an independent digital witness to anything that has to do with exchange of data.
Yeah, exactly. I would like to add here that there are a number of challenges, bottlenecks related to applying blockchain on a larger scale and for enterprise. And some of these challenges are related to scalability, to interoperability, some lack of some established standards. But there are already some partial solutions, or we are getting closer to solving a big part of these challenges. And that's why since the beginning of the company and of our products, we would like to remain agnostic to blockchains. We would like to develop our architecture in a way that we should be independent from these bottlenecks and these challenges, in order to focus on development, really have this foundation. and then be able to adapt to the market demands and see which blockchains will be merged, which will, where this consolidation will take part, and how we can bring real value to the clients and to our partners.
You see a lot of hybrid blockchain solutions. Is that a strategic choice?
By hybrid, you mean a combination between private and public?
Yes.
I believe we have seen this also with when communicating. The word public makes the company scared. Private companies make the word public makes them scared. What it means is because they're not informed how blockchain works, they think that the public word means they're pushing information available to everybody, and they're not thinking about actually what information they're pushing and why they're pushing it. This kind of psychological obstacle of thinking about private blockchains. But slowly, we also see that the public blockchains are become requirement at the level that tells, okay, we have now this partner blockchain here with our partners and other companies that we work with. But how do we make sure now that this blockchain is secure, is more secure? Could we do it like let's take some data snapshots and from our blockchain and push them to the public blockchain for providing more security. So this is, I think, the first step of adopting public blockchains, because technically the value of the blockchain is seen on the business side. It just takes more time to convince those organizations that the public blockchain is more like a security vault rather than a place where you put for free information of your company. And I believe that's the reason hybrid blockchains are now a trend. And also the scalability wise is the other concern, because public blockchains are inevitably more latent, and they do have issues with the number of transactions throughput. But private blockchains are on the other side. Okay, you could achieve higher rate of transactions per second. Then you have kind of control on that, on the resources that are spent. And yes, that's the two reasons: scalability and the psychological obstacle, I believe. If Emiliyan has more ideas.
No, I agree. But my opinion is that if you're building a public service and this is online solution available to many people, you should use a public network because of the security, because of the trust level, because of number of nodes where these transactions are spread and secured. And if you're speaking about a very specific business case and it is between a limited number of companies, perhaps a private blockchain could do the job. And then the public network is just an insurance. So hashing data on public network from time to time, or depending on the algorithms on a regular basis, it could be a way to ensure that this data is somehow hashed, protected on the public network, and cannot be manipulated in the private networks.
Something else that the hybrid networks are, I think, interesting for the businesses is that when somebody is creating a network, closed one or private, a consortium, there is this association of both services for consulting around blockchain, plus some ready tools and solutions that run on that blockchain. And it's a kind of one-stop shop for the businesses, where they tell, okay, we're using blockchain and this organization is supporting this consortium blockchain, and we get the services from them, and the tools are ready and they work. It's kind of, again, how businesses work in terms of minimizing the risk of adoption of a new technology.
Thank you. Another question came in, quite an interesting one. People are wondering that in case that, for example, I would use your service, our company would use your service, would our clients also need to be within your service model? And what does the payment structure look like?
In terms of if my users need to be your users, not necessarily. But if you want to start linking, for example, if you provide, I don't know, an email, let's say you want to link an email to blockchain for some reason. No need to provide a blockchain identity to your users, as long as you want to link their identities to the blockchain for some reason, right? This really much depends on what you want to achieve with the blockchain. But basically, your users, if you want to start using a blockchain security layer, and you want the full stack of traceability, and you want to create more value out of this, you would need to give them blockchain identities. And these blockchain identities are not, they're universal, basically. It means they can be used for wallets, they can sell tokens, whatever. So it's more like your user should be can be blockchain users, right?
Yeah, speaking about the pricing, perhaps. Let me see if I'm muted or not.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Speaking about the pricing, our philosophy and our principle is that we would like to take some part from the value that we create for our clients. So the business model is very much transaction-based. And usually startups, developers, they start to use our services via the SDK, Software Development Kit, which is already available on GitHub and can be tested. You can see the documentation, see how it works. And you can integrate blockchain functionalities in your system quite easily, as Emil already explained. And then when you increase the volume of transaction, it means that this solution already brings some value to you. Then you switch to a paid plan, which is also transaction-based. So depending on the volume of transactions that you execute, you pay a fee that usually is negotiated case by case, or it's quite competitive. But again, we see ourselves as a technology partners, technology enablers of startups. And we discuss the partnership framework really case by case, depending on what you need, so what kind of support, what kind of functionalities are important, and how the solution could be customized, tailored for your needs. But generally, it is a transaction-based model.
Great, thank you for explaining. I think you answered all the questions. Thanks so much for that. Is there anything in particular you would like to add to what you've already mentioned?
Maybe just a personal note. Speaking about blockchain Netherlands, I'm happy that there is such community network growing, and we are happy to contribute somehow also to blockchain Netherlands. And I would like to share my personal motivation to be part of generally of this blockchain world or blockchain community. So I like to say this story that once I read a book, and in this book there was a very nice example about how we do business or how we communicate with others usually now in the world. So it is very much so-called, how do you call, I forgot this term, zero-sum game. So in order to win something, I have to take from you. And in order to make some money, I have to take value from you. And in blockchain, we speak about a positive sum game. It's about working together, creating value together, being part of one network, one community, accepting these rules, consensus mechanism. And if we do our job, and if we follow the rules, then there will be value for all of us. And this value will be distributed in a fair way, a transparent way. Fair is interesting word. So that's my motivation, and that's why we are also glad to be part of blockchain Netherlands. And I hope that this community will grow and will be a driver in the developing blockchain startups in Netherlands.
Great, that's very inspiring, Emiliyan, and a great addition. So again, if you have any questions after this webinar, we will share the recording but you can also directly contact either Emiliyan or Emil for additional questions. So feel free to do so. Thanks everybody for joining, and we hope to see you at the next webinar and maybe even a face-to-face event, but that's probably going to take a bit of time with all the restrictions there are. So thank you so much, and see you at the next webinar.
Thank you, Rudolf. Hi.
Thanks to everyone, and thanks, Rudolf, for organizing this.
You are welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.